I was introduced to the Ouija board in the 9th grade in the mid-'80s, mostly because of my fascination with the occult. I listened to bands like Ronnie James Dio, Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden, that kind of music, and the first Ouija board I'd ever used was a very unique double-sided board found underneath a house in Tulsa, Oklahoma. For a period of time I thought that they were all double-sided until I started to collect them long before the internet. I would go to flea markets, estate sales, I'd find them in thrift stores, find them everywhere, it seemed like. My girlfriend at the time, her and her mother were practicing Wiccans, and they were into this white magic, and so I began, what developed as a lifelong interest in spirit communication because of my experiences with the talking boards, as well as auto writing. I participated in hundreds of Ouija sessions and seances, and I become the guy who would show up at various places like horse races and treasure hunts. As weird as that may seem, I enjoyed making believers out of skeptics. When I was able to guess things that I shouldn't have known. For instance, one time we asked the board who my friend was going to marry, and the planchette spelled a name. And much to our surprise, when we requested her phone number, it scooted over a set of numbers. I actually called that number, and amazingly a woman answered the phone and identified herself by the same name spelled out to us from the Ouija board. And these kind of things happened all the time, and eventually I became obsessed with the Ouija for many years before some really negative things began to happen. Question number 2. If you call knowledge of the unknown or guessing middle names, dates of birth, that type of stuff positive, then yeah, I've had a lot of these types of experiences on Ouija boards, as well as a lot of neutral experiences in which there wasn't a lot of name calling or predictions or any of that type of stuff, a lot of gibberish sometimes. So a lot of neutral experiences. The ones that stand out as negative were a lot more repetitive. Cussing, threats, death predictions, sexual perversion during conversations when women were present during these sessions that took place. I would label all those as negative. And that's not counting the hauntings and what I would classify or put under the paranormal activity, things that would happen and did happen. Question number 3. While I believe in the possibility that spirits can attach themselves to objects such as Ouija boards, I do not attribute any powers to them whatsoever. In my opinion, they're just a medium to facilitate communications with entities and spirits. Question number 4. In the last 5 years, I've had many people contact me in regards to what I have coined the Zozo phenomenon. I also introduced the descriptive term Z entities, to document other entities that identify themselves with names beginning with the letter Z, such as Zozo, Zaza, Zam, Zulu, etc., as well as the strange Mama entity that's also been reported during these encounters on the Ouija board. So I've heard a lot of names. I keep them archived in my emails. I look for, I kind of do a comparative analysis of people's experiences that they send to me. Keep track of all these names in case I need to help someone in the future or as part of my ongoing research. Unlike pendulums or dowsing rods, communication with unseen entities via Ouija board and centerpiece involves significantly more than tiny involuntary muscle movements. Skeptics dismiss the movements as a natural process known as the ideomotor effect. When entire conversations are taking place involving invisible participants who reveal knowledge unknown to the players, are we to also dismiss the statistical probabilities of such phenomena? In my own experiences, I have observed misspelling of words that I know I would never misspell. Does the ideomotor effect explain what part of my brain caused a forced inaccuracy? How does automotive movements facilitate abilities to suddenly spell sentences in an unknown foreign language, such as Hebrew or Latin? How does science explain that an automatic response, such as in play with Ouija boards, induces a powerful and negative experience in comparison to other acts of divination such as tarot cards. If the dowsing rod could talk, would it call you a whore and threaten to plow the way towards a fiery demise? While I do not believe the ideomotor effect is a concrete explanation for talking to the dead or unseen, I do view the effect to be a necessary byproduct or conduit for spiritual operations. While evidence of full-blown physical possession seems a very rare occurrence, does it not make sense that our otherworldly or dimensional spirits can channel information through our brains telepathically? In situations where, say, 4 or 5 people have their fingers on the planchet, how is it that the ideomotor effect works on each participant individually? One would have to conclude that at the very microsecond the question is being asked, the entire facilitated auto-response would have to be magically resolved into a group effect. How does this magical subconscious mechanism engineer statements and ramblings not pertaining to questions asked? Wouldn't the result of 4 or 5 people subconsciously and independently attempting to spell words result in gibberish as opposed to meaningful sentence structures? I have seen quick and witty abbreviations implemented into conversations on Ouija boards during intense sessions where the planchet was moving so fast and forcefully you would quickly lose train of thought without someone writing down the words from beyond. So it would seem that despite on which side of the fence that you sit, skeptics and believers alike agree that the planchet moves because of impulses unconsciously generated by the participants. This fact does not change the paranormality of the phenomena, however, as science cannot provide proof of how it all works. Maybe it is not the board or the planchet that is important, but the contents of the message delivered. Perhaps it doesn't matter how the message was produced, by land, air, or unknown methods. Perhaps we don't kill the messenger. Are we to concern ourselves with how Mr. Postman abuses his wife, cusses like a sailor, or drinks like a fish? Or am I more concerned with the content of the correspondence I received from a soldier at war in some foreign country? When I say that Ouija boards can be dangerous, that does not mean it is not a tool. A chainsaw can be used to cut a rick of firewood to provide warmth for my family, or it can be used to commit a horrific crime. I doubt, however, that I will section off my leg forcefully for no other reason than tiny muscle movements facilitated by an auto-generated subconscious response. Unless, of course, I have known what's known as alien hand syndrome, and that's for another discussion. It's my opinion that there are obvious differences between the uses of Ouija communication as opposed to electronic spirit devices and EVPs. Ouija communication is a hands-on involvement where, either consciously or unconsciously, you are actually inviting entities to work with you, as opposed it's more of a physical process involving muscle movements to communicate with invisible forces as opposed to electronic means. This simply is not true with the spirit boxes or asking questions and expecting a response via EVP. In the EVP sessions I have been exposed to over a number of years, the communication is not nearly as effective or elaborate as the letter-by-letter communication in Ouija sessions. Also, I've never been cussed out by an ovilus, nor have I been threatened by death or possession by other means of electronic spirit communication methodologies. Also, when thinking about the actual probability of spirit communication, do I think the random scanning of radio waves is a direct link to the other side? While I am open to the possibility of spirits influencing the communication through radio waves, I am far more open to the possibility of communications both on a more personal basis and with far more accuracy with Ouija as opposed to random word generations in EVP. It is my opinion that electronic means is a safer option, however, and one that does not involve the practice of voluntarily